Hello, hi class. I'm going to do a tutorial now on the actual design process. We've reached a point in our discussions where it would be helpful for you to see me apply the principles we're discussing, particularly as it relates to harmony and contrast. I'm not sure how many rings I'll get done. As you know, I'm struggling with a cold and my voice may betray me, but give it a shot, okay? I'm going to first off start with some reference. Okay. Now let's go with the beach. Okay, so here I have some sea life sorts of things, beach sorts of themes. Pasting this image into Painter, turning it from default to gel so I can see through it. Won't make a difference right now, but it will in a minute. And I'm going to start by doing low contrast types of designs. Okay. Let's start with a men's ring. This is a template that I use. Putting in a new layer on top of the men's template so I can draw easily. Need to make this a little more opaque. Actually, I'm going to pick one that I want to work with for starters. Alright. I want this one. Actually, let's see what I've got here. Actually, I think I want this one. I just copied and pasted. And I think I want this. I think I want these. The rest of it I can get rid of for now. Alright. Scatter these around a little bit. Low contrast men's rings. Okay. Set me up with a pencil. That's a good color. I want the rough paper. I want the grain high. Remember, if this isn't showing, you need to change the tool to something that's not a pencil, like pastel, and then change it back, and you'll find your list of recent pencils up here, and you can just grab it again. Okay. I actually have my pre-made pencil called Jewelry Blue. I'll show you how to save pencils later. But there we go. Okay. Alright, so I want low contrast. I don't want to spend very much time. As we've discussed, the way this works is this is the segment of the ring that's going to be most visible from the top. It relates to these on the front view. These two marks represent here. These light blue lines actually show me the actual side of the ring, so if I'm drawing an actual top view, that's where it will come to. Okay. Alright. Sketch done. Make sure I end it in the right place. Okay, moving on. Another sketch. Something inspired by the dolphin. So I just went to the layer adjuster, slid the drawing out of the way, and came in for something else. Okay, something low contrast with my dolphin friend. For this, I'm going to want to do a ladies ring. This is a lady size template. I don't have this drawn out wide like the others. This is one I use commercially and it stops right here. But basically, guys, if I eyeball half of this and I make it go that much farther out here and that much farther out here, I'm close, because this is supposed to come to here. Now it's not curving, so it's actually shorter. So in truth it's going to be something more like this. Okay? But for my sketching purposes, it's fine. Back to my penguin. Not my penguin, my dolphin, I'm sorry. Okay, I want to come to about here. And I'm going to put a marquee shaped stone in it. That's good. Second harmonious design. Third harmonious design, I'll go back to men's. Just turning templates on and off over here. I want to use this one over here. Do a classic men's ring. Always make sure you get your men's rings wide enough. This is a 4mm strip, so I want to go at least double that, if not triple it. So 12mm is not unreasonable on top for a man's ring. Sides, but I will, so I can explore it a little bit. Yeah. Done. Curious where this drawing is made. It's not here. It's not here. It's not there. I'm hoping I didn't draw it on my men's template. I did. Okay, fine. Not a problem. Not ideal, but not a problem. Alright, so now I'm going to clean these up a little bit and do a front study. But let's talk a bit about why I'll do it while I'm cleaning them up. All of these I can make use of symmetry. So I'm turning on both lines. The green lines are always hard for me to see, the pale green, so I always make them a different color. And sure, why not? I'll work with the one I ruined the template with. Alright. What makes it I'm actually going to steal this because I want to make it more. I'm going to make a selection, lift it with the layer adjuster, and now it's a separate floater. Unfortunately, if I touch anywhere, that is going to drop back down to the canvas. So what I actually need to do is I need to Control X, which removes it, and Control V, which pastes it back in. Now these are separate layers, and that'll allow me to make this one more transparent. Put a layer above it. Negative shape. We talked about negative and positive space. Okay? You can't ask for a more quiet, consistent outline than that. Okay? And then I fluted it. Now the flutes are kind of interesting. I took them all the way across. If I'd have just done straight flutes, boom, 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 it would have been too harmonious to be a good design. And I still want a nice design. So I'm not going to make them quite straight. I'm going to float them back from the edge a little bit so they become kind of cushion shaped. I want to bring them a little closer together than what I had sketched, because this narrowness brings some tension, as does the narrowness here. Pinched quality of that brings in some contrast. The eye would expect a little more room there. And that's really a good way to think about contrast. Surprise. When you do something that surprises, you're introducing contrast. So by taking those distances and making them a little more cramped than what a relaxed design might have, but still not enough to be distracting. I'm staying harmonious, but I'm giving it a little bit of interest. And I know that my template's going to end somewhere in here. I don't really need to go much further than this. Don't want to get too round on the sides. I want it to still stay a pretty legitimate flute. Been modeling in Rhino all day for a client, so my mind is thinking CAD terminology, 3D terminology. Now, keeping with the theme, I told you guys that you had to just do one of those 3 designs. I'm pretty much done. There are things I liked on the other 2 that I would really like to explore, but we're not going to have time for me to do that. So I will clean this up just enough to get by with it as a drawing, and I will do the indication of the elevations. Okay. Alright, I don't really need a top and bottom, so go back to symmetry, remove that one, back to brush. Okay, this elevation is pretty good here. This elevation under the finger is pretty good. I have 2 main elevations. I have the elevation of the back plate and the elevation of the ribs or flutes. I'm going to see something like that. And I'm going to bring this down. Now, so you know, Painter does have a feature. Canvas. If you turn on your rulers, then you can turn on your guides. And that will allow you to bring down basically a construction line. Now, these are not going to be able to be really rounded because of the kind of corners they have. They're going to be kind of flat. Now, why that is something you'll have to get with experience, but really soft is not going to happen with this kind of a squared off shape. To grab a new guide, I just pull into that ruler margin, and I have a new guide. If I grab the little arrow at the top, I can drag a guide so I don't keep making more of them. Okay, this last one is questionable. It's getting awfully close to the edge. Alright, for sketching that's fine. To get rid of these, you double click on them, and then you can delete all guides. Yes. Okay. So now I'm going to come down and work here in the front. Bring this information down. About what I drew here. I'm going to eyeball it. Somewhere out to about here, these are supposed to stop. I've got one going a little further than that. I'll decide if I want to keep it or not. Now, this method is cheating, so please don't believe that it's accurate. It isn't. It's a sketching method. It's not a mechanical drafting method. But I'm in a hurry to get some information down. This center one is going to be line up right in the center where it already is. So I'm going to put it there. This one I'm going to just eyeball that distance. I know that as it's rolling away, it should take up less space. I know it's visually about the same as this one. This next one once again about the same distance of space. It's a little narrower. Okay, this last one, about the same distance here. Something like that. Okay, and because I'm on a computer, I can come in here, I can take the grain down low, or even better than taking the grain down low, I can pick a smoother grain paper that'll have less impact on my line. And I can zoom in. And I can come into here. And I can take a brush. Remember, we never go down below like 1.9 unless we're faceting a stone or something. And I can very carefully clean up this view. Okay? It's not difficult to do on a computer, it's just time consuming. You can undo, you can work on different layers, so it's very hard for your work to get away from you. To get into a position where you've ruined something is hard to do on a computer. You have unlimited chances to get it right. Okay? But I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time doing this because you can already see what the emphasis was, and this view is supposed to only be a sketch. So if it conveys the information, it has done its job. Okay? We're a little bit off the center line, because if I take it over here, it takes it out over there, but that's fine. Okay? That works. Now I have one of these set down low. It's this one here. I don't need it anymore. So I'm going to right click and delete layer. Okay? And I don't need this information anymore. You can keep it in yours if you want to, but I don't need it. That fulfills the assignment, really. Okay? If I'm thinking it's a little too dull, and I kind of do think it's a little too dull, I can work on it some more. The way I would do that is I would want to put it on a gel layer. So I'm going to select this whole thing again. You'll never see me come over here, because if I just go R-Enter, it becomes that tool. And I'm always using shortcuts. What's important to know here is that instead of going Control-C to copy, if you do Control-C, it's going to select whatever's on the current layer. I want to select what's on this layer too. I want to select everything I see. And to do that, it's Control-Alt-C. And then Control-V. You'll see a new layer comes in here. That layer has all the information on it. I can now delete this one. Okay? I've still got it here. And this is my men's template that got destroyed. I'm going to fix that quickly. So I'm going to open men's sketch templates right here. Okay, Control-A, Control-X, that cuts it from the thing. Control-W to close this file. No, I don't want to save it because I'd lose my template. Bring it in, gel it so I can see through it, position it back on top of the old one, using the arrow keys on my keyboard to get it just right. mince temp. You can have two layers named the same thing in Painter. Painter doesn't care, but it can get confusing for yourself. So once I do that, I'll delete the other one. And now I have a functioning mince template again. And I have my drawing. Okay? I'm going to take my drawing and I'm going to go gel with it. Now I'm going to work on my canvas down below. And I'm going to use something that you guys don't have yet. No, I won't. I have color libraries I can access, but I'm not going to do that. I'll just use the color wheel. So, come into about here. Control it primarily through the opacity of my brush. I don't care about the shank. That's this part. I care about the domes. If I want to add a little interest, I've got to turn off mirror right now. Okay. I can put some shading on these. To show that they have a little extra form. Okay. Well, I already have that in my front view, so that's not adding a whole lot of information. It's making it easier to see. But it's not really adding much in the way of new information. Notice I can come in and erase and clean up, and my drawing is safe because it's on a gel layer up above. I can't hurt my drawing unless I go up above and touch it. Okay. Come in, a little smaller brush. Not being too careful here. Where I can make it interesting is I can now pick this up. Once again, Control, go up to this top layer. Control Alt C, Control V. Delete that layer. Clean the canvas. Bring this layer back, turn it gel. I can make every other stone an onyx. Every other hump an onyx. And since I've got already color on the gel layer up above, take the grain down to almost nothing. You'll see that where I have the shading, it'll go darker even still because I'm working in layers. And give me a little highlight on each stone. Okay. There. Okay. Nothing great, nothing outstanding, but there's a sketch. That would qualify as homework. All right. Low contrast men's ring. Once again, Control Alt C, Control V. Close that. Delete layer 9 that has my drawing on it. Clean my canvas. Select my canvas, draw a selection window. Control X to clear it. And name this so I know what I've got. Oh, come on. Fine. Low contrast men's. Turn it off. I don't need my references anymore. Select those 3 layers they're on. not sure what's on here. Oh, my original sketches. I like those. Low contrast sketches. Fine. Alright. Now I'm going to go to the opposite end of the spectrum and do high contrast design. Alright. Remember, high contrast is where we're approaching 50-50. There is no such thing as more than 50-50. What would more than 50-50 be? It's impossible. For example, if I'm contrasting geometric with organic, and I start out with 70% organic and 30% geometric, well, there's quite a bit of contrast there. If I slide it even further down to where now I've got 60% of organic and 40% of geometric, oh, there's a lot of contrast. If I go 50% organic and 50% geometric, that's as much contrast as I can get, because if I go 40% organic and 60% geometric, now the geometric is taking over and the contrast is tapering off. If I go down to 30% organic and 70% geometric, the geometric is quite a bit in charge and the contrast is getting much lower. If I drop down to 20% organic and 80% geometric, well, now I've got a geometric design that's quite harmonious. Don't confuse words like organic with harmony. That's not. Okay? Don't confuse terms like busy or detailed with contrast. It isn't. We talked about that in class. If everything's got a texture and detail, it's just texture, it can be low contrast, quite harmonious. It's when things that you wouldn't expect together come together. That's where you get contrast. Okay? And if it gets to be 50-50, you have the highest contrast you can get, and usually your design will fail. Alright, so I need new reference material. Oh, that's going to be hard. The Mesoamerican mint is going to be much easier to play with. But why make it easy on myself? Just keep the hard one. That's way too big for my purposes, so I'm going to edit, free transform, grab a corner window. Hold the shift key, that's important, so I get a uniform scaling. And then edit, transform, commit transform. That puts it back into high resolution. Gel it. I'm going to actually group these together. Call that low contrast. I'll be saying resolution through the entire tutorial now. I'm sorry. Take this reference, gel it. Let's do a ladies ring. Gonna take it a little darker. Effects, tonal control, brightness contrast. It's a little sun, slide down, apply. Alright, that'll make it easier for me to see that. Put a drawing layer on top and sketch 3 sketches. Okay, one way, remember I'm going to to start way out here because I want to draw it flat. I can play with negative shapes. That's not expected on a ring. So that's a contrast thing right away. And I can pierce things out in this design. And when I do so, I can make it so that they are not symmetrical. Okay. Sketch 1. I can do a bypass. Bypasses tend to be interesting, more unexpected than a symmetrical ring. And here, for the point of this floor pattern, I can put a stone. And then coming in from the other side, I can go geometric. I don't want to make it an ugly design. And this is quite wide right now for a woman's ring, which is another aspect of contrast. I'm going to bring this around like a circle, but I'm going to put radiating piercings coming in. Okay, that's contrasty. Maybe too much so. Third sketch. Once again, an informal, asymmetrical kind of draping. I keep being very realistic with this, which is a problem. I should be getting a lot looser with this reference than I am. It's late. But I'll have one come in like that, and I'll have another one come out like this. Okay? And I'm going to bring the shank in a straight hard taper. And depending on the size when I get to it, this comes out here quite a ways once again. I may do something as the circle in the middle, or out here. Okay. those are my 3 designs. I have to decide which one I want to play with. Oh, actually, I like all 3 of them. They are fun things to do with all 3, but I think I'll stick with the last one. I did that on the last design too. Stuck with the last one. Okay. Come in here. Turn on my symmetry. Now it's an asymmetrical design, so you might ask yourself, I'm going to move these together by holding down the Shift key and selecting both. I can slide them at the same time. This ring is only partly asymmetrical. Okay. I want to get a good look at this reference while I'm working because I'm leaning on it too heavily, as I mentioned. It's too big still for me to do that. So I'm going to scale it. I can do it free transform like I did last time, but I can also go transform scale and type in a number. 50%. I still have to commit transform when I'm done to get back to a nice high resolution image. It's still too big. Edit. Transform scale. 70%. 65%. Okay. Okay. These are my high contrast sketches. I'm going to take those down transparent and put a new drawing layer on top. Bring my grain up a ways because I do have the smoother paper here. Bring my brush size down. I'm going to use my straight brush. Remember, I want it to be at least twice as wide as this thing is, so it's going to be to about here. Oh, and I would like to have it symmetry on all sides. So I do need to turn this line on, and once I do that, I'm going to have to move at least these 2 things. Okay. These 2 things for now. You'll never get it perfect. It'll always be half a pixel off. That's alright, we don't care. Pretty good is good enough. Move this back up to where I like it. I like to have my reference up on the upper left side. That's just me. And back to drawing. I want that because I want very crisp symmetry. Okay. I want a hard geometric effect. And I want it to be about this thick and to come down more than halfway. Enter. Okay. Alright. My brush is awfully transparent. I need to bring that back up. Those lines came in very faint because I had a lot of transparency on. Didn't mean to put on cap locks. Going to white. Going to my high contrast sketches. Going to erase this part. Just so I don't have to argue with it anymore. And now I turn off symmetry. I can't use it anymore. I'm inspired by these kinds of forms. So I don't have to go crazy with detail, but I do want to catch the feeling I'm after. And it's hard for me to go too far. I've been doing it too long. But I'm trying to push the boundaries of good taste here. One of the things that was nice about this is that it has this kind of geometric form, which allows it to play nicely with these harder lines. I'm going to actually soften that and make it more organic than the reference gives me. Remember, reference is just a place to start. You don't end up there. You certainly have no obligation to end up there. So I will variegate. That means put like a real flower or stem that has lots of undulations and texture in it. And I'll make the quality of my line less stylized, less clean, less mechanical. Lots of little striations and details on this. I don't want to go crazy though. I don't have the time. If I were going to make this design, then I would go crazy with it. But as a tutorial, no. But I want something that is more believable as an actual leaf form than what shows up here. Okay? And now I'm going to do the one coming from the other direction. Looking at the overall shape. Once again, positive and negative spaces. This one ends right here. This one's going all the way down the side, which is good. That's a lot of contrast. That's a lot of asymmetry. But I'm going to cut it back a little bit because I instinctively just have to. So I'm going to have to correct that a little bit. mind you, if I'd have done a more stylized treatment of these stems, there would be less contrast. But because I'm trying, at least, to make them more realistic, and if I were doing this professionally, I would research further now and find some really good reference of exactly what this kind of flower is that I'm making, or at least assemble several different types of flowers, because that's legitimate as well, of course, that work together to give me what I want. I always want to have more information to look at than I think I'll possibly need. I never want to be in a position where I go, oh gee, I don't really know what to do right there. I don't want that to happen. I want it to always be a choice. Do I want to use that kind of flower or that kind of flower? Do I want to twist the petal this way or that way? You know? And I want to have good things to look at and encourage me and inform me while I do. That's enough for that. Okay? Now, I want to clear that sketch. So I'll go to my high contrast sketches layer and just select and Control X. And that cleans that up. Now, as far as the template underneath, I could of course paint out the template, but it'd be easier just to put in a new layer between the template and my drawing. In fact, I didn't need to do that. I can come back to the high contrast sketches and paint on there with white, because it's an opaque layer. It's on default, so it will cover. And because it's below my lines, it can't hurt them. I'm a little confused why my lady's temporary sketches aren't just disappearing. Oh, I see why. Because I have the sketches turned down low on opacity. I just slid them up. Okay. That helps. Okay. I do have to clean it up a little bit if I was going to really present it. If you zoom in this far, you're killing yourself, because you're going to see things that will never read. I'm at 400%. Try never to draw it closer than 200%. You'll just make yourself crazy. If I printed this out right now, it would be remarkably clean. These things that I'm drawing are very tidy pencil lines, even though here they look very sketched. Okay, there's some fatness here I don't care for. I would fix it on this side probably, like that. Okay. To carry this annoying reference even further, I would bring a tendril in behind here, like a little vine element, and I would do the same thing here. So I'm turning these now, I'm bringing some harmony back in, bringing in an element of these that can be a little geometric to help tie in the rest of the ring. But I want them underneath the band. Okay, so that allows me to bring some of this organicness into the behind the scenes, basically. Okay. Now the last thing I want to do here is going to be in the center. Alright. Also, I'm starting to feel, but I'll fix this in a minute, I want to put a round stone in the middle. So I'm going to go back to my symmetry. I'm going to go radial. I'm going to boot this up to, say, 6. And I'm going to draw me a stone. Going to put in a new layer just so I don't have to fight. Okay, so I have a very symmetrical round stone. I'm going to put it, I'm actually going to beat it up with 6 prongs, very symmetrically. Okay, but that leaves a very asymmetrical hole, which I understood was going to happen. That's why I put it on a different layer. I can now move it over. Okay. So it will sit a little skimwampus, a little off-center. It's geometric, but the fact that it's a little wabi-sabi makes it organic again. I'm playing back and forth, back and forth. But the negative spaces are pretty aggressive. And that's enough, okay? I'm not going to do more with that ring. I do have to draw the front view, the elevations. It's actually kind of too close to work with. So I will do my usual. I'll draw a selection window and then do the Control-Alt-C, Control-V, and that captures everything I can see. So now I can get rid of this. I can get rid of this. This. Go ahead and clean that area off my high contrast sketches. Turn those off. And there's my design. I needed to do that because I need to move it up. so I have enough room to do that elevations study that I like to do. I'm going to turn off my reference and bring back my symmetry. Now I'll just use the regular linear symmetry. I don't need the top to bottom. I just need side to side. And I won't even be able to use side to side for very long on this piece. But I can at least establish a bottom plane. Pick up this elevation here. Pick up this elevation in the middle. So I have the basic block of what this is. And now I have to turn the symmetry off. Can use my guide. This whole flower segment I see being different elevations that fit within kind of this much space. Okay, I have to be aware that everything beyond the halfway point, and this becomes hard because I can't pull a construction line here because I can't see the ruler. So to get it to where I can see the ruler, I have to actually do this. Minimize the window back down. And now I can grab from both sides. Be nice to remember now what I needed it for. Okay, yes, everything beyond this halfway point I can't see. My eye is looking from here. Here's my eye. I can't see anything back here. Alright? So, knowing that, I'm going to lose track of this flower about right here. Okay? And this is going to roll down and get lower. I think that this is the highest part of that flower. But even that I'm really not going to see because it's going to start rolling away. I'll actually draw this back flower first. The part that I really can't see well. It'll be very low because it's already falling away. The highest part will be the stem right here. That'll be the highest part. And that'll kind of come up, curl over, and fall back down. And just kind of fall away. That's fine. When it comes over the side of this shank, it'll actually make a line that would go all the way down. But it won't, because it has this detail that's actually at a lower elevation. I'm going to say something like that. And it comes all the way over to here. Like that. And I'll roll this off. Okay? The other flower, I'll zoom in a little bit. The other flower is at its highest here, maybe a little lower, and then gets higher. Its highest point is once again going to be going over the finger. So its highest point is here. Oh, except for when I zoomed in and out, I lost my ruler. Come on. That's a glitch in Painter. It shouldn't do that to me, but it will. Alright. Okay. So, I've got to figure out what that's doing. I know it's on top of this one. This is all kind of questioning here. This is all kind of a question mark through here. But I do know that this part goes all the way down to the finger. I know that this seam will go all the way down to the finger. I know this protuberance will go all the way down to the finger. So once again, like I always say, low-hanging fruit. Get what you know for sure. Okay? I'm confident about those things. And then this is going to roll back up over the top of the ring finger, the shank, and do something like that. The points of these are going to do something like this. That's what I feel. So I will simplify them and just draw a plane doing that. I think this and this kind of melt into each other. That may or may not be the case, I don't know. I'll know when I try and model it or have a wax carver do it for me. But I can have a pretty good guess as to what it's going to look like. And then I see this coming around like that. And then falling back down. So I see something like that going on. Okay. And now I can actually make the individual little gestures. Here's this point. It scoops up into there, something like that. And then here's this point. And it won't be really hard like that because I'm going to do it very soft and organic, but yeah, something like that. This one actually comes over the top. That's good to know. So since it comes up over the top, this can come down a little lower. It's getting confusing with all my guides. So I'll remove them. And the last thing I have to get, and yeah, this is jumbly, this isn't great, but that's okay, it's a sketch, is my stone. It's a faceted stone. Although actually it would be better if it wasn't. It would be better if it was a cabochon stone. But women don't like cabochon stones, generally speaking. Now, it would be nice if I could use my symmetry right now and do all this, but this is easy enough to do by hand. There's the crown. There's the pavilion. And I have a prong somewhere in here. I have another prong somewhere in here. I have prongs on the outside, here and here. Tidy that up a little bit, but not too much because I still need to do this on the front view. You know, this is just my sketched elevations. Okay, something like that. All right. So now I'm going to bring all of that down. This time I'm going to start with my stone because I know it's the highest thing. I also know I want it to, here's a question, do I want it to face up or do I want it to face along the finger? I'm going to have it face along the finger, something like that. Okay, I'm going to eyeball this distance. I think it's a little too high. Eyeball this distance. There's my stone. I'll sketch a stone in there. Okay, and then the rest of this is really going to be kind of eyeballing. I know this comes all the way to here flat. It's not going to come quite that far as it rolls around, so I'll make it a little bit shallower. This looks about what I've got here. I might have a little lower. Actually, if I'm going to do this stone lower, I've got to bring this a fair amount lower. And that's okay. I don't need the elevation right here on the shank. It is interesting though, because what it implies is that I have a low shank on both sides. And to ensure that I have that, because remember this is symmetrical as far as the shoulders go, it's not a usual thing to see in a ring for it to get thin like that at the top, but it's not against the rules. And once again, in the spirit of being a high contrast ring, the unexpected isn't a bad thing. Okay. I can eyeball this distance. Oh, don't want symmetry on anymore. And this swoops up something like that, comes around and cradles the stone. And the last petal comes up and tries to sort of embrace it here. But they kind of bleed into each other a little bit. Okay, I'm starting to think I made the stone too low. Even with all things considered, I made it too low. Just going to drag a selection window around it, lift it up a little bit. As soon as I hit my paintbrush on the palette, it will drop it back down again. And it just gives me a little more room. But see, if I hadn't drawn this thing flat first, I would be guessing a lot more than I am right now. I actually feel kind of confident about what I'm doing. I can bring this as a guide, just have to know that it's not going to come that far over because it's curling around the finger a little bit. Actually, it does feel like it. You have to kind of look at what this looks like and look at what you have here, look what you have here, and make them look the same. So actually it is reaching out like that. This comes quite a ways over. Okay? But we know over here it really can't, we have to visualize what this is. It's going to end about here. This distance wrapping around is about there. This small comes about this far and then tucks in where it goes into the side of the shank. The rest of this reaches up and over. Something like this, and disappears behind the shank. Trying to make it attractive, but whether it's attractive or not is not a huge issue at this point. What's an issue is, do I have a solution? Have I come up with something that is credible? Looking at this now, I would probably be more inclined to have the stone face straight up. So I will do that. And then I will put the prongs on. Okay. And I could keep belaboring it, but there's no reason to. I don't like how the shank is looking. I would just absolutely have to come in and treat that a little more. I can accept that the whole thing has a slightly thinner shank than I would normally like to see a ring have. But I wouldn't want an ungraceful taper. And of course this would be something smarter to do in Rhino or Illustrator or using one of Painter's vector tools than to be freehanding it like this. But it's okay. If I really had to get it nice, I could go to radial symmetry or something. For the purposes of this assignment, it's okay. So the shank's a little thin, and Professor Nelson's going to give me a hard time. I'll just tell him, hey buddy, there's a reason for it. These are narrow, thin little arms. If they're taller than that, they're going to look really chunky anyway. And it's strong enough. Besides, this is fun because now it starts to look like I hand drew which I did. I hand drew the outline. So if you really want to baffle your clients, you could take your brush nice and big and remove the center cross. Then they don't really have any idea how you made it so even. Okay, I'm going to turn off the symmetry. Clean up a little more. that's done. Okay. I could cut this out and just leave those two, but I think since I'm going to post this up so you guys can look at it, it's probably useful to leave it. Drag a selection window, Control Alt C so I select everything I see, copy everything I see, paste, and then delete that layer below. Okay, turn off the template. So there we have the design. I can gel it if I want, so I can see my other sketches. I can organize them. I can organize them better. Although I could have just moved the whole layer. Okay. And now, I'd make them a little more transparent because they're kind of loud. I can group and collapse these. High contrast. Drawing. Delete the reference. Bring these back in. Save. When you have groups and a lot going on in Painter, it tends to crash. I'm going to arrange my sketches the same way with the low contrast. Okay. Save. Whenever you're going to collapse a layer, it's a good idea to collapse a group. It's a good idea to save first. Okay. Okay. So there's my two drawings. Now it's a little deceiving because the lines are so dark here that it feels like this is the high contrast drawing. But it isn't. This is the low contrast designs. Very analogous, very sympathetic shapes and forms. I'll go ahead and lighten that. I keep putting it on the wrong layer. There we go. Okay, but that's it. I will post this Painter file so you can have access to it. That's it. Thanks for watching.